Hi again. Thanks for waiting. We will now start the webinar, and I will hand over the word to Thijs and Andy. Gentlemen,
Hey.
the stage is yours.
Thanks, Jasper. And hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this webinar. Today, my colleague Andy Lee and myself will talk about how we can help you as our customers to simplify AML measures and the KYC of your customers. We will also talk about how to keep up with compliance and fraud prevention thanks to Signicat's Trust Orchestration tools. And this will allow you and show you how we can increase your customer onboarding conversion rates, and with that, increase your revenues. But let me first quickly introduce myself. Well, I'm Thijs Vink, and I'm General Manager for Signicat in Central and Southern Europe, and I'm based in Rotterdam, but traveling often to my teams in Spain and Germany. But like I said, today I'm together with my colleague Andy Lee. So Andy, can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
I'm Andy Lee. I'm the UK country manager here at Signicat post the acquisition of Sonic last year, which was actually founded about 10 years earlier. My background is very much in fraud and risk management and compliance. I'm dating back till, wow, when first and foremost you bought things on the internet like flights, and it was very much cardholder not present fraud back then. As the internet evolved, suddenly consumers could do lots more, namely apply for accounts and manage their accounts and make payments. And so the breadth increased hugely, as did all the innovations that we're going to talk about. And we'll talk more about trust orchestration in a second, but ultimately it was about bringing together all these innovations into one place.
Well, thanks, Andy. That sounds like a lot of experience. And before we start the actual webinar, we have a request to you. To please ask all your questions in the questions menu you have in front of you. And if we have the time at the end of this webinar, we will answer some of your questions, but probably not all. But we will make sure that you will be contacted by your Signicat contact to make sure that you have all your possible questions answered. So, Jasper, can we please go to the first slide? As we have probably some existing customers, but also a lot of new customers with us today, I would like to talk a little bit about Signicat. And at Signicat, we have the vision of creating a trusted digital world. And what do we actually mean by that? Well, at a very high level, we can say that we provide technology that helps customers and businesses to trust each other. And we're actually already operating since 2006. And we are known as the European leader who can support you in the full digital identity lifecycle of your customers. And we do this with a single platform and API, as you can see in the next slide. And we can help you with your needs on identity proofing, trust orchestration, which is actually today's topic, but also on authentication and electronic signing. And with Signicat solutions, you can enrich the digital identity of your customers with a broad range of eID services and registries, but also by eIDV document verification services and the broadest portfolio of eIDs. And last year, Signicat acquired Sonic, and with their trust orchestration solutions, we have further improved our portfolio. And that brings us actually back to Andy. Andy, can you just quickly, for the audience, tell us what that concept of trust orchestration actually means?
Well, absolutely. Thanks, Thijs. And, first and foremost, everyone wants to be able to trust the people they're doing business with, whether it's a retail consumer, whether it's a business, or the persons of significant control behind that. But a key message is, with us, you can trust orchestration to enable you to meet your regulatory requirements, manage fraud and risk, and truly know your customers to make sure you accept genuine applicants and also kick out any of those bad guys out there in the world, which sadly exist. But quickly, what is orchestration? A key word there. we developed this over 10 years ago, and orchestration was about bringing together all of these components, all of these innovations, and enabling access to it. And, if you just think of an orchestra itself, it has various sections. It will have a string section, a percussion section, a wind section. And within each of those sections, there will be instruments, violins, cellos, etc. And so the concept of orchestration is replacing those sections of an orchestra with areas in this RegTech world, which could be electronic identity providers, could be a section, ID sources and registry lookups could be a section, documentation could be a section, authentication, signing, fraud and risk management. And then within those, the individual end suppliers, the third-party vendors, are the instruments in that section. And just think of the data points being the notes that the instruments are playing. And, you might have a piece of music, which is a consumer applying. And orchestration is about the conductor, namely the workflow engine, calling on each third-party supplier and retrieving the data points, the notes, to help us build up that picture and play a really nice piece of music. And it will be a different song sheet for a business applying, or a consumer saying, I want to change my address, I've moved house, or make a deposit. So that really is the sort of concept of orchestration, and together building this trusted digital world we talk about.
Well, that sounds good, Andy. And I really like the comparison with the music orchestra, as I'm personally very much interested in that. But Jasper, if we can go to the next slide, because I know, Andy, you like going to dinner parties. And at those dinner parties, you can, of course, often expect the question, what is it that you're actually doing in your professional life? And what is it that Signicat does? So what is your answer to that on the table?
Well, thanks, T. So for some reason, I do still keep being invited. So I must be doing something reasonably okay, or at least providing entertainment for everyone. So what is the dinner party question? It's whenever I go to a dinner party, and I'm sure all the listeners do too, you will meet people for the first time. And more often than not, someone will say, as part of the pleasantries, what do you do for a living? And I'll sort of start off saying, well, I work in the RegTech space. And they'll be going, well, what is the regulation technology space? And I'll try and explain a little bit more. And where I seem to land more often than not is saying to the person asking the question, if you applied for a bank account online, if you applied for a credit card online, an insurance policy, a gaming account online, you would probably provide your name, address, date of birth, email, mobile phone number, etc. And I say, well, and do you expect to be accepted? And every time everyone says, absolutely, of course I should be. And I then say, well, what if a criminal, a fraudster, off the back of a data breach elsewhere, applied for an account in your name, a credit card, etc., and provided your name, your address, your date of birth, an email, which may not be yours, a mobile phone, which again may not be yours, should they be accepted? And virtually everyone says no. And I say, well, this is fundamentally what I do, what we do. It's about joining all those data points together to not only meet those requirements, the regulatory ones with regards to know your customer, but also bringing into this as part of the digital world now, additional attributes that we'll discuss later, to try and identify, well, is it likely to be me, or could it be someone impersonating me? And we often talk about mitigating the risk of impersonation fraud. And this is what we bring together in this trusted digital world.
Thanks, Andy. And this is good inspiration to that dinner party question, which we all receive every now and then, I guess. It's better to be good and better to be prepared. And Jasper, if you can go to the next slide, because what you just mentioned, Andy, is that you need to collect more data and information about the person in order to be more certain about proving the identity. And it sounds there's a lot of big data that needs to be analyzed. So how do you see this?
Well, absolutely. And first and foremost, to us, what is big data? Big data is about having access to a wide pool of data to be able to make an informed, real-time, automated decision. Now, but which bits of data, which data attributes do you actually need? There are thousands of bits of data out there across all the various third-party suppliers we can serve up to our clients. But, you know, there was an old principle called economy of data. And, you know, let's process data for a purpose. Let's process data rather than just capturing every bit of data available in this world of big data. Let's capture and process the data that we need to make a decision. Let's capture the data that we need for audit purposes. Let's capture the data that we need for analysis. Let's capture and process data to enable our back office fraud and risk and compliance teams to make manual review decisions. And within that pool of data, there will be good actors. And conversely, within that pool of data, there'll be bad actors. And, you know, when we often talk about fraud and risk management, it's often seen as, you know, returning a decline, stop that fraud. But actually, it's the inverse as well. A lot of the data points we're able to capture and serve up to our clients are good. And surely this world should actually be about capturing information to accept good customers. And we'll talk a bit more about that, I believe, in further slides, Thijs. But the real message is it's the needle in the haystack. You know, let's help our clients have access to the data without lengthy tech projects and future-proof innovation and further data points becoming available. Without the need for lengthy internal tech projects client side, but also let's help provide advice. You know, we're built off fraud and risk practitioners, like I said in my introduction with regard myself. The whole team in the London office, in particular, are fraud and risk practitioners, and it's about advising our clients as to, well, what could be the good actors for that event, what could be the bad actors. So, you know, I think more will become apparent as we carry on through the slides, if we may.
Absolutely. But the important question is, of course, how we at Signicat can identify the good and the bad actors and how this will increase the revenue of our customers. So how do you see this, Andy?
Well, exactly. So, you know, it costs money to bring customers or applicants to your site, you know, and good customers have a customer lifetime value associated with them. So a real focus is on accepting these good customers. And how we do that is via a single point of access, a single API call to the platform. We go out with pre-designed strategies agreed collaboratively with our clients, because let's not forget, Thijs, our clients know more about their own businesses than we do. We almost become, and a lot of the testimonies from our clients, an extension to their own fraud, risk, or customer onboarding teams. And it's about us helping our clients via a single access point to technically capture the information they need to deliver their policies, to meet their requirements, to maximize acceptance of the good customers, and also to not be under the threat of potential regulatory fines or the costs associated with fraud, and managing fraud as well is a key point. So there's various things we can talk about in relation to that, but the real message about what we serve up with this trust orchestration platform is a single access to an API. I think we're now across the old Sphonic system and the existing Signicat system that built this trust orchestration platform. It's something like 150 different third-party providers can be accessed and serve up all these key data points.
That's very impressive. So Jasper, if you could go to the next slide, because building a good orchestrated onboarding flow will allow you as a customer to accept more of your genuine customers. And it will also give your customers a better user experience. And you don't need to push everyone through the same KYC process with the tools that we can provide. And on the next slide, we would like to illustrate what we are doing on this. And Andy, can you elaborate on this picture?
Hey, absolutely. And this is probably my favorite slide of all time in a way. They say a picture paints 1,000 words, which is probably not a bad thing given I can probably state 10,000 words. And what are we trying to do? You know, imagine if you looked at a passport, you have a picture of someone or a driving license. What we enable is a digital picture of data to be built up around an applicant. And I am, even though my background, as I've said, is fraud and risk management and compliance. You know, let's focus on the fraud bit. You know, I could be showing a picture of a bad applicant, highlighting all the things that we could identify to turn down an applicant. But we really want to spin it on its head, as I've said, and accept genuine applicants. Let's hope all our customers have a lot more genuine applicants than suspicious. So if I talk through this diagram, within this, there's about one API call into us, the Trust Orchestration platform, could go out to potentially 5 or 6 different third-party APIs real time. And from the moment a customer hits apply now, and let's not forget there could be other use cases as well, but we're going to focus on applications. Within 3 to 5 seconds, we could return a response with a whole digital picture of that applicant to enable an informed decision to be made with regard accepting the application, rejecting it, or reviewing it. Using all the various data points we've retrieved and computed. So quickly talking you through it. There I am in the middle, although probably not my hair color. And you know, traditional KYC, whether it's via the sort of EIDs that are more prevalent as you go through the sort of northwest of Europe, or sort of registry lookups that tend to be used more in my country, the UK. This is the sort of traditional KYC. You know, I've applied for an account. Do I exist? Do I reside where I claim at my address? Is my date of birth validated? You know, am I over 18 if it's, say, an age-restricted product? Am I a politically exposed person? Am I on a current or previous sanction list? These are all things that all our clients will understand from a compliance perspective. But in this digital world, there's a lot of talk and a lot of documents being published and white papers around digital identities. And there's so many more data points associated with digital identities to do with where I am, how I behave, what I do, what tools I use. So if we look at the bottom right, I talk about device profiling. We have a raft of vendors that can create an ID associated with a device, my laptop, my tablet, my smartphone. And so first up, we can go as part of this digital picture. Well, this is the first application you've ever seen from this device. Sounds good, eh? That's a big tick in the box. Conversely, 10 applications, 100 using the same computer might be a bit suspicious. But we can also associate. So if you imagine a virtual access, X and Y, and we can compare one to many, many to one. So have you seen other identities against that device, other devices against that identity, other addresses against that device, other devices against that address? And through all the attributes, emails, mobile phones, etc., ID document numbers, and so on. And we can also give further information. So we can go to a geolocation vendor, as an example, and get the actual physical coordinates of my house, which we can then cross-reference with the true IP longitude and latitude coordinates. So we could go, Andy Lee exists. He lives where he says he does. He's not a politically exposed person. He's not a current or on a current sanction list or previously sanctioned. He's applied from a device that was the first time we've seen it. And that device is within 1 meter of his house. Now, that's actually an important thing because anyone pretending to be me would have to probably travel and sit outside my house. Now, clearly, there's boundaries here and ranges. You know, it could be, I could be at work. I could be 20, 30 miles from my address. But, you know, this is the sort of information we can serve up. Additionally, these vendors have federalized information that would be unknown to our clients otherwise. So they could say, we first saw that device 2 years ago or a year ago. None of our other clients across the world have ever marked that as suspicious or as fraudulent. So it's these data insights that can be really positive. So we're building up the picture I gave you about me and KYC and first application and proximity to my house. But we can also now add to that, it is a known good device all over the world. It hasn't been burnt. And then let's look at things like my mobile. Well, in a good world, if I was to apply, my mobile is on a full contract, not say a prepaid, not saying prepaid is bad. The vendor itself provides a federalized risk assessment based on their historical sightings of that mobile phone number. So we can now also say, well, I'm here in the UK. I could be in, say, Amsterdam, and say my address was in Amsterdam and my device applying was there and obviously in the Netherlands, and my phone was on a contract issued by a carrier in the Netherlands and is currently live in the Netherlands. These are all big positive ticks in terms of that earlier slide and data attributes. And so we're building up this digital picture. My email, when was that created? Someone pretending to be me would most likely create a recent email. There'd probably be a lot of searches. A fraudster wouldn't only be attacking, say, one merchant. And so we can get insight additionally into how many searches have been taking place against it, how many recently, how many unique merchants. Has it been reported as suspicious as well? We can do the same by bank accounts being registered or velocities or associations and countries. So these 5-6 vendors I mentioned, we can retrieve this information within 3 to 5 seconds of a customer hitting apply now. And we could probably get hundreds and hundreds of bits of data from these 5 or so vendors. But I've probably only called out 20, 25 bits of really pertinent data to start not just building up a picture of my identity, but my digital identity, enabling our customers to accept genuine people. And we can throw in other suppliers like verification if a phone country dependent is registered to me or my address, biometric, botnet detection type stuff to see whether it's a machine making the application and not a human. And the key as well is we carry on this picture. So if I then want to log on to my account or make changes to my account, if I move house, we can cross-reference. I've used that device before for my application in that same geo zone. So ultimately, across any event, back to the musical sheets and a different song for all the event song sheets, we can build up this digital picture. To enable our clients to make decisions in line with their regulatory and own risk-based requirements.
Well, I very well understand why you like this picture so much, Andy, because it makes very clear what we do and what we can deliver to the customer and to the customer's customer, I would say. So if I would try to sum up this slide from a customer experience as an end user, I would not really notice what happens behind the scenes through the orchestration tool, but it enables us, for the customer, to perform all the necessary checks. And in that way, we can say that our customers can expect a more genuine customer with a much better user experience. Is that actually a good summary of what you just shared, Andy?
Geez, that's a great summary. I think I said 3 to 5 seconds accept, but we can also stream this data into a case management system. If compliance teams or risk teams need to perform a manual review where there are a handful of suspicious attributes too, without any tech work our client side. We can also stream this information back to my earlier statement about orchestration and the uses of data into a BIMI reporting tool so our clients can analyze what's taking place. There's a whole use of this data. So first and foremost, it's about giving a customer a great experience in a super fast way. And some of the customers we're currently in dialogue with want to use this information to even do things like pre-fill application pages too, to provide an even better customer experience. They don't have to key in, say, all their information as well. So there's various different ways customers and their customers can benefit from using this solution.
Super, Andy. I think we should move on to the next part, because I'm sure many of our participants today are interested in this because they would like to know how we are actually creating these flows in the orchestration tool today. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, and this is sort of hot off the press, really. This is just the sort of homepage of the new Mint product that Signicat are bringing to market. The project name was Flow, and just like our platform was originally Workflow Manager as well. The whole concept is there are templates of initial best practice workflows, as it were, on the left that can be dragged in for our customers to self-service and create a flow themselves. Additionally, we're going to have objects on the side that are the components like mobile profiling device, email, KYC, KYB, authority to sign, data prefill. And all of these our clients can drag into a workflow and branch out, as you can see the branches on the screen, and actually self-serve. But if they don't want to do that, fine. That's why we have professional service teams as well who can help construct these and configure these for clients. But this is all part of this low-code, no-code world. We want to enable our clients to utilize either our professional service or have the ability to self-service. And different customers will have different sort of delivery methods, and some will want to do more themselves and some will want to rely on us and work with us. And this new platform enables clients to choose the delivery method of how they want to access it, but fundamentally off a single API connection too.
So if I would be a customer with different types of databases or information lookups, which I would like to add to the flow, can I then easily change between the different vendors when being connected to that same API?
Well, exactly. A key structure underpinning the whole platform is a data taxonomy that normalizes the data. It knows that request data for vendor A needs to be in this format to populate this field, for another vendor in a different format to populate a different label, a different field. And the responses are different too. One vendor might return a ABC, one XYZ, meaning the same thing. And so we've got this data normalization layer. So our clients can drag in different vendors and switch in and out. Obviously, credential management needs to take place and things like that. But they can also, as you can clearly see on the diagram, create branches. You could say for this country, we need to call this group of vendors. For another country, we need to call different in-country specific services, both fulfilling the same purpose. But clients can also create test branches. So, in this world of innovation, we're constantly seeing new services available via APIs, which is how we've grown to this sort of 150 or so, third-party suppliers under the hood. And that will continue. So we can enable our clients to also drag and drop new vendor services and actually test the value of new services without internal tech projects off their existing connection. Almost a silent check. So it might not lead to scoring or decisioning, but they can still capture the data, say, to be streamed for analysis to assess new innovations as well.
Okay, and can you tell us a bit more about the support that we can give as Signicat to our customers on this?
Well, it's a really great question, and it's not here's the toy, go play with it. We have a professional service team, and I think I mentioned it earlier, who have backgrounds in fraud risk management and compliance, who understand the value of the data, the value of the vendors by country, and can make best practice recommendations. We have pre-configured templates by each use case, so we don't have to start with a blank piece of paper. But that's not to say we don't have to. Many clients, we hold a whiteboard session and we map out with them collaboratively what a flow could look like, utilizing existing vendors they've got as well, which can be brought into the same flow as part of this Mint offering within the Trust Orchestration platform.
Okay. So perhaps just to sum up what we've heard today, Jasper, can we go to the next slide? Because what are the key lessons learned today? Andy, if I would ask you, what are your key takeaways?
Well, yeah, I think to me, it seems quite straightforward. Hence, at the very top, we say onboarding does not equal KYC. In the old world of face-to-face banking, you'd turn up with documentation or whatever. In the digital world, there's a lot more than just the pure traditional KYC checks being performed via, say, EIDs or registry lookups, etc. In the digital world we live in, to create this trusted digital world, there is this concept of digital identities, and there's much more to a digital identity than purely the traditional KYC, know your customer checks. Conversely, know your customers shouldn't just be this tick box at the point of onboarding. customers should know their customers through the lifespan of their tenure with our clients. And we hope that's a long tenure, knowing my digital identity, knowing what devices I use, where I use devices. I always give an example of, I used to go to America a lot, and we might be able to go, hang on, Andy Lee is now in America accessing his account. But he's using the same computer he used when he applied. Back to my green ticks in the digital picture. But we've never seen him in America before because we cross-reference, we break down data silos. So now let's go and check where his phone's live. Oh, it's live in America. And suddenly next time when I'm in America using that same device, we don't need to then go and do the other check, and it costs money to acquire data. So as our clients use us for more events, more use cases, as long as I follow a pattern and you're knowing me, less checks should actually have to take place, which can be less friction, less cost to our clients in the ongoing management of customers. We can also enable refreshes, but only when an anomaly presents itself might the workflow go off and capture a bit of information rather than declining a customer or holding up what they're trying to do whilst it's reviewed. Let's try and clear up any anomalies real time. Like the example of I'm in America, that's the workflow within a matter of seconds can go and check when my phone's live. So, this is why knowing your customer is about knowing your customer through the life cycle. It's not purely that, at onboarding, which obviously, you look at regulations and all the KYC checks that have to take place at the point of onboarding. It is a significant part of onboarding. And I'm not changing that message. I'm just saying, let's help join up data across all customer interactions with our clients and enable them to truly know their customers.
Well, thanks, Andy, for that great summary of today. And I think we are ready for the next and final slide. And that's also the moment for the questions you have posted in the questions menu of the webinar. There's quite a few of them which we've received, and we are not able to cover all of them. So what we will do is we will cover some of the questions from today's webinar, and we will make sure that all the others are covered in a one-on-one session as a follow-up on this webinar, and you will be contacted by your Signicat contact about this. So let me have a look at the questions which we received from today, and thanks for the summary on that, Jasper. So let me go to the first one. Andy, what is the frequency of updating a third-party record in the solution among existing clients?
Wow, it's a great question. And first and foremost, as a partner in this RegTech world, we are not about just deploying our solution and only coming back 3 years later when it's renewal time. Our customers' workflows look very different within 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And, that's what we call optimization. And all of our clients go, oh, could we trial this new vendor or add this new vendor? And that's how we've grown. And whereas, internally, when we talk to our clients about the value adds, the unique selling points, they more often than not say, you've freed up so much of our tech time, where our development teams are not having to connect to new vendors, manage API version controls. That's what we do as our bread and butter. So whereas a client might need to go and identify vendors, assess them for value and understanding the data within the APIs, and the context that needs to be applied in relation to decision making. They also need to connect to the APIs, test the APIs, keep up to date with version control. We've seen this take sometimes 6, 9, 12 months. Or hear stories about that. Whereas the fastest, I think, because of the way we've created this vendor connector, it's not even a dev project here. Our professional service team connect to vendors when clients request. And the fastest we ever did was 20 minutes. We often say to clients within 1 to 2 weeks, we can enable a new vendor that can be dragged and dropped into your workflow and assessed. So that is how we've grown from 5 vendors back in 2012 as our MVP for launch, to a world of almost 150 or so now. If a client wants to utilize a new vendor or an existing vendor that they currently do not use, they can contact the PS team and we create a tiny mini project of sort of 1 to 2 weeks where most of the heavy lifting's our side to enable it for them. But if they're already in the network, it's a simple drag and drop. So, another thing our clients often say is we need to expand into this new country, or regulations are changing. We now need to do this type of check, and we enable them to meet compliance deadlines without lengthy internal tech projects too. And this is all the feedback we receive from our customers, and is really key to the whole value proposition around our delivery model.
All right, I think that should be a good answer to the question. Let us go to the next one. What content partners does the system integrate with?
Oh, wow. So these are all the sort of areas within that orchestra that I think we mentioned earlier. We connect to the Know Your Customer data sources, the credit bureaus, etc. We connect to the business, Know Your Business type systems, the government registers, the KVKs in the Netherlands, the Companies House in the UK, etc. We connect to the various PEP and sanction suppliers. We connect to device profiling, to email profiling, to mobile profiling, to domain profiling, to geolocation, to behavioral biometrics, to .NET bot protection. A whole raft of services that are served up through this regulation technology RegTech world. We enable through the platform.
How many is it in total today?
Oh, it's about 150 third-party services, probably across 15 or so areas. And by areas, we also might have like signing authority, or through the existing trust orchestration platform, the authorizations, the signings, the identity proofings, the signatures, etc., as well as the other services that have now been brought to the table as well, or the platform, as I should say.
Yeah, and of course, if our customers want to know more about that, and if they want more details about the list of vendors, we of course would like to have an individual meeting to tell everything about that. There's a next question, Andy. Do you offer transaction monitoring?
Absolutely, we do. I think I mentioned before that we cover many events, and I use an example of me now, accessing an account from America. Transaction monitoring, and our clients that are regulated will have sort of anti-money laundering transaction monitoring policies, and we basically technically deliver their policies. But what we can track is, the system as well also performs lots of computations. So it could be that, I'm initiating a payment of 500 euros, but we can go, but on average, Andy Lee initiates 1,000 euros, and the highest he's ever done is 2,000. So we're able to retrieve information about my history over a day, a week, a month, or whatever, and perform all these variance computations. Whereas Thijs, you might normally only do 100 euros, but suddenly, which is far less than my 500, but on average, you normally only do 50. So, you're outside of your normal bounds, and it could be time since transactions, running sleeper rules, dormancy rules. Is it the first time I've transacted? How long is it since my account was open? Have I made a payment to this end destination before? All of these things are just further data points as part of that digital picture, which enable our customers to run anti-money laundering transaction monitoring strategies through the system too, where they can whitelist customers. So I might trip all rules, but let's not flag Andy every time, but let's periodically look at our whitelisted customers, or watchlisted. It doesn't matter what they score. I always want to look as a compliance team when, Thijs transacts, because we're watching you, these sorts of things. So, there's a whole library of rules and data points that we have, as we have for onboarding, and templated workflows. And these workflows for transactions can initiate events like messages out to customers, or performing KYC refresh, or rescreening, or additional authentication as well. So absolutely. And all customers, I will say, start with us with onboarding, because it means we can not only help make a decision then, but we can track information for when a customer does initiate subsequent events. So you don't have to take the whole workflow for every event, but customers tend to start with that and then go, can we now deploy a transaction monitoring solution or a fraud and risk management workflow or a log-on workflow, etc.
All right. Now, the next one is a slightly different topic. Can you offer risk scoring?
Well, hey, very similar to the last question in a way. There are subtle differences between transaction monitoring and fraud and risk, or risk associated with onboarding. So a workflow that goes and captures data from these vendors, these good and bad actors, you can run different scorecards. You could run, a KYC scorecard, an impersonation fraud scorecard, a transaction monitoring scorecard off the same data points within the same workflows. So the workflows are all about capturing and using the data in the right way, back to that appropriate proportionate use of data. But off those data points, you can also run scorecards. But one final thing that I think is quite important, we're very aware that our clients will have already invested in connections to vendors, and we can utilize those. Some may have invested in their own scorecards or decision engines. Some may have their own case management or CRM system. Customers don't have to take everything we can offer. It's very modularized. If customers just want us to be a gateway to data and serve it back to them to run their own decision, they can do that. If customers want it streamed into their existing case management platform or BIMI platform, we can do that. But if customers want us to run the scorecard within our engine too, we can do that as well. So we're not a rip and replace. We're here to work within the existing ecosystem a client has and just add more insights to it.
All right. Well, I suggest to take two more questions before wrapping it up. The next one, actually, we received a couple of times. It's asking, how would an onboarding to your services look like?
Wow. Okay. So we have best practice workflows in place, templated workflows. We can provide documentation to clients of these. We like to actually hold face-to-face workshops with them where we whiteboard what it would look like. We discuss the types of services, the areas of the orchestra. We discuss the vendors, the instruments within the orchestra. We discuss the data points, the notes being played, as it were. And we enable a big library to be then constructed. Here's what a workflow would look like. Here are all back to the big data world. Here's all the data points we can retrieve from these API services and can compute for you. And then we have a second workshop where clients say, yes, I would like that data point processed and used for this. And then off we go. Then we're in project mode. We can give a client a bespoke API. We take their existing headers and formats. They don't even have to map to one vendor. Or, so we design a bespoke API for our customers, which we have a brilliant design tool that generates it within, minutes and a whole new open API spec. So we're used to running these projects. And, I think, I said, the fastest we ever connected to a new vendor was about 20 minutes. But I think the fastest we ever got a client live with a whole onboarding workflow, including bespoke design, configuration, test, delivery, was about 10 days. But a lot of it just depends on the decision-making process, the sign-off. This is what we want, the amount of testing a client wants to do. Some clients want to test it for a week, some a month. But it's great. We enable our clients to have these choices. A project can run at exactly the pace they need to or the deadlines they need to hit.
Well, it sounds pretty flexible and impressive to me. Let's go to the final question of today. How much of the work can actually be automated?
Wow. Hey, we're all about automation. It's about from the moment that customer hits apply now or deposit now or change my address or whatever, the API call is made. We go out through the platform to the orchestra, return the information. And depending like transactions, we can only go as fast as the slowest walker, namely the slowest vendor. So a workflow can call vendors in parallel or in series. Why might you do in parallel? To manage your costs of acquiring data. In series, to not make unnecessary costs that you don't need to make. So the actual real-time decision is fully automated. Obviously, where it needs to be streamed for manual review, that's where agents can step in. But the case management system is designed to enable agents to prioritize so efficiently what to look at, and look at the most risky first via our unique filtering system and predefined filters. And when reviewing a case, agents are able to decide what data they want appearing where. And we put these red, amber, green flags on them. So an agent in a screen of hundreds of bits of data has the data logically grouped how they want to work through it, but their eyes get drawn to the red flags first. So, real-time decisions, fully automated, manual review, not far off, I won't say near real time, because obviously manual reviews take time, but the information is available, within seconds of a customer initiating an event.
Wow, sounds good. Well, thanks a lot, Andy, for all your answers and insights you've shared with us today. And thanks, Jasper, for moderating today's webinar. Now, back to you in the webinar. Huge thanks again for joining our webinar. And as shared earlier, we're happy to follow up with you on a personal basis and to talk about your current processes and how we can demonstrate our trust orchestration tool and how it can help you improve in your current situation. So please contact us or contact your account manager to plan a good moment to follow up. Thanks again.